Detective Inspector, it is imperative we search the crime scene as soon as possible.
You mean my crime scene?
If I may, I can count on one hand how many crime scenes I have seen in my life, and although they are somewhere I don't wish to spend too much time, as the representative of Lloyd's of London Bank, it is my responsibility to handle all matters regarding the now stolen painting.
A weak attempt, but I've got more on my plate than dealing with some paper pusher getting his knickers in a twist. You've got until I return to do whatever it is you need to do. And if I find one thing out of place...
You may question my authority in this case, but I will not have my professionalism questioned.
Whatever you say.
Oh. Huh. Uh-huh. Aha. Oh. Oh. Huh. Oh. Hmm. Huh. Oh. Aha. Oh. Aha.
From analyzing the victim's body, I can conclude that the cause of death was not dead by the flames.
Not by the flames? Then what?
That is what we are yet to determine.
Oh. Ah.
Didn't you speak with her neighbor before? Might she be able to help?
Is it that copper again? What do you want?
I was hoping to ask you some questions regarding the fire. May I ask your name?
You aren't coming in. You can get that into your head now. Mrs. Colsham. Camilla Colsham.
Merci, Madame Colsham.
She hardly had any visitors, but yesterday it was like she had a sign up offering out free ale.
If you would be so kind as to talk us through the events as you remember them.
Well, I saw her leaving with a couple of paintings under her arm. You've seen her work? Not really my cup of tea. Then there was that posh-looking chap. I heard him before I saw him. Like an elephant on those stairs. Next came the professional-looking fella. He's got some money in those pockets, that's for sure. I saw him leaving with a painting, too. Oh, and the argument with another man? I couldn't hear what it was all about, but he had a set of lungs on him.
You are doing a wonderful job, Madame Colsham.
You can keep the patronizing tone to yourself. She must have turned her radio up to disguise what they were saying, but I tell you this, I'd rather have listened to them than that racket. It wasn't long before he was storming down the stairs. I don't think he'd heard the expression light-footed before.
Would you be able to remember any other details of the gentleman?
Through this people, you can barely tell who's man and woman. I didn't hear her leave, but when I heard that door downstairs slam, I knew it was her. I opened my door and gave her what for. And you know what she did? She waved me off, bottle of bubbles in hand, ranting about being dry. She looked 2 sheets to the wind, if you ask me. Only after did she turn the radio down. I wasn't going to waste the peace and quiet, and I got ready for bed. I was getting right into the exciting bit of my book. Perkins' first one, you know. I do like Perkins. Well, that's when I first smelt the smoke coming from the hall. And then you lot showed up.
Merci, Madame. You have been most accommodating.
Oh, and I found this in the garden. It's obviously hers. I was going to put it through her letterbox, but, well, you know.
The cork from a champagne bottle. It would not be a giant leap to assume this came from Mademoiselle Courtsmith's apartment. A smell lingers on the cork. Bitter almonds. Merci, Madame Colsham.
Monsieur Hastings, your assistance is required.
Of course. What do you need? What can I do for you?
From analyzing the victim's body.
Not by the flames. Then what?
That is what we are yet to determine.
What can I do for you? Mr. Poirot, you are a genius. What can I do for you? That would never have even occurred to me. I've got a lot to learn. What can I do for you?
Let us get back to...
The answer was staring me in the face. Logical thinking shall always prevail. The answer was staring me in the face. One step closer to revealing the truth. Magnifique.
What do you need? What can I do for you? That would never have even occurred to me. I've got a lot to learn. What can I do for you?
Let us get back to the scene. From analyzing the victim's body.
Not by the flames. Then what?
That is what we are yet to
What do you need? Almonds? I've never had champagne that tasted of almonds.
One would hope not. Mademoiselle's...
Of course, It wasn't an accident. It was set on purpose, using
An almost perfect...
But why try and get rid of the...
Let us...
Things are beginning to become clearer.
What do you need? I don't know.
Take your time.
Okay, firstly, we know that she had a number of visitors and an argument with one of them. Among these visitors, one left with a painting, perhaps another forgery.
Très bien.
Irene wasn't drinking alone, and whoever she was drinking with likely poisoned her. The killer used a syringe to inject a liquid form of the poison through the cork.
Potassium cyanide. Traces of the compound can be found in nature, but dangerous levels, such as those present, can be detected by its notable almond smell.
And she fell victim shortly after in her chair. What are you going to tell him?
The truth. He may hope for a simple and somewhat convenient version of events, but he cannot ignore the facts that we shall present.
My crime scene still intact?
Of course, Detective Inspector. There is something that...
There's nothing more to say.
Pardon, Detective Inspector. The truth is that Mademoiselle Irene Court-Smythe was murdered.
Right you are. I'll be sure to make a note.
But you won't.
Excuse me? Are you forgetting who you're talking to?
He is well aware of your authority and your capability of coming to the same conclusion. We only wish to inform you of our findings.
Well, my men have been in, as have I, and I've concluded that the mademoiselle, as you so elegantly called her, made off with the painting and decided to have a few drinks to celebrate. She passed out drunk in the chair, candle still lit, and the place went up like a match.
Detective Inspector, s'il vous plaît.
Who are you calling simple?
He's not calling you simple, he's saying that isn't how it happened. How can you ignore the bottle of champagne that had been tampered with? The smell of poison on the cork.
You're both experts in poison now, are you?
I do not wish to stand here and argue credentials. Mademoiselle Court-Smythe was killed, not by the fire that burnt through her home, but at the hands of another.
Quite the imagination you two have.
Look, we can show...
No. We shall leave the Detective Inspector to discover the truth for himself. Detective, adieu. Monsieur Hastings, you must learn which battles are worth the fight. Besides, we have no time to stand squabbling with him. We have a murder to solve.
That was quite a night. I feel exhilarated, yet exhausted. Triumphant at what we have discovered.
It is being able to control those emotions and still see the bigger picture that separates the best detectives from those that merely like the thought of such responsibility.
So do you think it must have been one of the guests at the gala?
An accomplice disguised as a guest turned murderer. A master criminal they may appear to be, but they have never crossed paths with Belgium's greatest detective.
I think I just felt a chill.
Now we must speak with the guests of the gala again, as well as find Monsieur Christiansen, who has continued to evade my questions. I have no doubt one or more of them will hold the answers we require regarding the death of Mademoiselle Court-Smythe. Mademoiselle, do you have a moment to spare?
Of course, Detective. I'm hoping you have some good news for me. Goodness. You've found the painting, haven't you?
A painting was recovered. A forgery, but it was damaged by the fire.
What on earth are you talking about? Forgery? Fire?
It ran rampant through Mademoiselle Court-Smythe's apartment.
She's dead. She would never be so. But with all of those flammable paints and... No!
Mademoiselle Warbeck appears quite distraught at the news. Perhaps I should have considered the nature in which it was delivered.
I respected her as an artist and a friend.
I do not wish to push Mademoiselle Warbeck too far while in such a state. But as a friend, I must know if she was aware of Mademoiselle Courtsmith's plan.
Perhaps, as a friend, she let slip of her plans.
Her plan for what? Stealing the painting? Making a forgery? Do you really think I'd let her do that?
She must have had help from someone she trusted.
If she did, it wasn't me she confided in. I've been here trying to calm down the trustees.
You did not leave the museum?
I was here until the early hours. After the meeting, I wrote a letter to my father. I wanted his advice on what to do. It's just all so... Excuse me, gentlemen. I must go and make a phone call to an artist. I shan't be long.
Merci, mademoiselle. That is all for now.
Huh. Huh.
Monsieur Aylesworth.
Ah, a detective that actually seems to be doing something to find my painting. What can I do for you? Quite well, thank you.
The infirmary discharged you already?
With a clean bill of health. I didn't want to wait around using up valuable resources.
An honorable gesture.
I was straight off to the House of Commons. I take it you haven't read today's newspaper?
I'm afraid I have had more pressing matters.
It certainly makes for an interesting read.
I was not aware reporters were permitted inside the house.
They aren't. I left and went to the London Illustrated News office. I gave my statement there. I can't for the life of me remember the chap's name. Rather pleasant, though. Anyway, you're a busy man. I'd hate to take up too much of your time.
It does not take a great detective to pick up on Monsieur Aylesworth's ever so subtle hint.
Is this about the insurance claim? It was merely a necessary precaution. I'm sure with you on the case, it won't be long before it's returned.
I do not doubt my abilities to return the painting, but I question why he felt it necessary to talk of sensitive details regarding the investigation to a national news outlet. It would not surprise me to learn of him using his loss for cynical gain.
I assume you saw the article in the paper?
Oui, monsieur. A fantastic opportunity for you to express your political opinions.
Oh, the people must know what I stand for. I'm here for them.
I will not take up any more of your time.
Bartholomew! Here, puss, 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 puss. Where are you? Bartholomew! Enough now! Out you come! I'm sorry, I just don't have time to talk now. I have to find Bartholomew.
Have you placed a missing persons report?
Really, Detective? Bartholomew is the church cat. I think a missing persons report might be a little overboard.
I am sure with our assistance we shall find him in half the time. And then, perhaps you will have time to answer my questions.
Fine. All that matters now is that we find him. His name is Bartholomew, and I'd appreciate it if you spoke of him as such.
Pardon. When did you last see Bartholomew?
Better. Well, you see, the poor creature took an interest in my easel. He leapt up, knocking over some of my supplies, and gave himself a fright. He bolted out of sight, and I've not seen him since.
Merci, Your Grace.
아. 오. 아하. 하.
I didn't think I could make it any clearer. Our priority is to find Bartholomew. Yes, Thomas, one of my parishioners, would usually have sorted that for me. But he decided this weekend, of all weekends, was the best time to holiday to Margate.
Where did you say the glass was broken?
The easel. I was painting, and Bartholomew was obviously in a boisterous mood and knocked over the water jar.
Merci, Your Grace.
Another success. I never doubted myself. What a revelation. The pieces of the puzzle are finally coming together. Voila. Logical thinking shall always prevail.
Monsieur Hastings, your assistant. Of course. What do you need? What can I do for you? That would never have even occurred to me. I've got a lot...
I question whether the bishop's version of events is accurate. Perhaps he threw the glass jar at Bartholomew because he was on the altar.
I know that's how it looks, but I can't imagine someone being so cruel. What tells us where the cat ran to next? Borrow, you are a genius. How can we know where the cat ran to next? Borrow, you are a genius.
Aha. Oh. Oh.
Bonjour, madame. Do you have a moment to... Has something happened?
You bet something's happened! That slime bag! How dare he say my performance was mediocre!
I'm sure he didn't mean...
That's it! I give up. I'm done with this acting. With this sitting.
Take a deep breath. Take one man's opinion, and a wrong one at that. He's not powerful enough to topple a career like yours.
You're right. Let him think what he wants. I'm sorry. I'm an actress. It's my prerogative to be a little overdramatic.
Very impressive, Monsieur Hastings. A position in negotiations would suit you well.
Is there something I can help you both with? You do know what I do, don't you? I was on stage, performing in front of a packed house.
I did not mean to.
Zach, he was there. You two seemed pretty friendly. He'll tell you. So will that Russian lady from the gala. She was with him.
Monsieur Demir and Mademoiselle Babagne. Together. Très bien.
Oh, he's already seen it. I told him he didn't have to come.
A supportive husband indeed.
Yeah, real supportive. Your guess is as good as mine.
It is most important that I speak with him.
Then you've got a missing painting and a missing husband on your hands because I haven't seen him. Look, I don't think I can take much more today.
Mademoiselle Court-Smythe was found murdered last night.
Okay.
I thought perhaps the news would be a little more jarring.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I don't really want to hear about anyone dying, but me and her... Well, there's no love lost.
Madame Allen's nonchalant response has certainly caught me off guard.
You have been most helpful.
What do you need? That sounds rather ominous.
I would not ask you to do something I would not consider doing myself. Only on this occasion it is I that must execute the other part of the plan.
What do you need me to do?
Madame Ellen, you must hold her attention while I take the opportunity to look around.
I certainly can. I'll appeal to her love of attention. Mrs. Allen, that photograph there, is that really you on a live film set?
Gentlemen, what can I do for you?
I was hoping to speak with Mademoiselle Farquhar.
I'm afraid she already has her hands full with the story. Unless you've come with a bigger one than what she's working on. Let's not be so hasty. That could be just what we need.
Gentlemen, what can I do for you?
This is your office. It's very impressive.
Mademoiselle, would you have time to answer some questions?
I don't really have time right now. Perhaps we can schedule...
I assure you I shall remain focused and my questions relevant.
Fine. Make it fast. Is she all right?
I'm afraid not.
Heavens. How awful. Did she have any close relatives?
I do not believe so. And her parents have both passed also. She was the last remaining Court Smythe.
A question I did not expect. Although at least she is showing some form of compassion for Mademoiselle Court Smythe's family, or lack thereof.
I only met her recently in a professional capacity. What are they going to do with her exhibit?
I cannot say, but they may not be as forthcoming with her work now.
I'm sorry, Detective. I don't understand.
Mademoiselle Court Smythe was behind the painting's disappearance, and a forgery was discovered in her apartment.
So she stole the original and made a forgery? What heavens for?
That we are still yet to learn.
Am I a suspect?
We are just trying to gather all the information. Isn't that right, Poirot?
Oui, that is correct.
I'm sorry. It's just a lot to take in at once. I was working late into the evening yesterday. I had to get my article on the gala written. And there was probably someone still around in the office if you wanted to check. I'm sure you want to have every I dotted and T crossed. Really? I must have been so busy not to notice him. At least you can be sure of where I was.
Was there anyone else present in the office?
If Mr. Aylesworth was there, Nathaniel, my editor, must have been.
It strikes me as rather strange that Mademoiselle does not recall seeing such an important figure in the office. But not everyone can be as observant as I. I shall speak with the editor, as he will be able to confirm the presence of both in the office.
Merci, mademoiselle. That is all for now.
What can I do for you, Detective? Well, Detective, This is a surprise.
A surprise, monsieur?
I wasn't expecting to be on the receiving end of an interrogation. I had nothing to do with the fire or her death.
You are aware of Mademoiselle Court-Smythe's demise?
There isn't much in this city I don't know about. And for your little notepad, or wherever you're storing the facts, that report, Farquhar, she was in the office and can confirm I was there.
It appears that Monsieur Aylesworth is more preoccupied with proving his innocence than showing any compassion for Mademoiselle Court-Smythe herself.
I will not take up any more of your time. Voila. Your Grace, now that Bartholomew has been found, would...
As my way of thanks, I'll answer your questions. Very well, get on with it. I hope that comes from an inquisitive nature rather than a place of accusation. I was at a museum trustees meeting, trying to finally make a decision on that girl.
You mean Mademoiselle Warbeck?
Who else? She's running that museum into the ground.
And following the meeting?
I returned to the church to prepare for Compline prayers, although I don't think I was alone.
You don't think?
I got the feeling that someone had followed me from the museum. I never saw them, but I know what I felt. None. I knew her merely by reputation, and a questionable one at that. Do you want to tell me what all these questions are about?
Mademoiselle Court-Smythe was murdered last night.
If you plan on being the bearer of such news, perhaps you should think of going about it with a little more civility. How did the young girl die?
There was a fire in her apartment, although it wasn't the flames that took her life, but poison.
Arson and poisoning. Oh, what is this world coming to?
Bishop Mountjoy claims he barely knew Mademoiselle Court-Smythe, but still showed a level of empathy I was not expecting. Perhaps I judged his blunt facade too quickly.
Oh, found it? Really? Oh, heavens be! The Lord has shown his will once more.
I can only assume his delayed excitement came from being off guard. Unfortunately, I must turn his elation into disappointment.
If your grace would allow me to finish, a forgery of it was found in Mademoiselle Courtsmith's apartment, but it was destroyed in the fire.
She was the thief all along? Well, that just... A forgery? You mean she made a copy of it?
It appears that way.
I will rightly light a candle for her soul this evening. But that will not give her absolution from what she faces, kneeling before our Lord.
Huh.
What do you need? What can I do for you? It looks like she was telling the truth after all.
About composing the letter, oui. But we cannot confirm where it was penned.
What's all this other stuff? I don't think it's from the letter to her father.
It seems we have stumbled across the names and addresses for the guests of the gala, although they are not all legible. We have gathered all the information we can from the guests at the gala.
Betty's husband, Mr. Christiansen.
Oui. We are now in possession of his address, where he is no doubt hiding like a frightened young boy avoiding his headmaster's ruler.
Voila. And just like that, the address of Monsieur Christiansen's apartment.
Remind me why we've lied our way into a man's apartment while he's not here?
Monsieur Christiansen was accused of harassing a young lady who has now been murdered, and he has not been seen since, even by his wife. Does that not strike you as peculiar?
Do you really think he could be capable of murder?
I believe everyone is capable, under the right circumstances. And right now, I believe Monsieur Christiansen is in that position. While we have no suspect to question, let us use our time wisely and search for clues. Leave no stone unturned.
Monsieur Hastings, your assistance is required. Of course. What do you need? What can I do for you?
Monsieur Christiansen was at the scene of the crime smoking with Mademoiselle Court-Smythe before her death. Could he be the holder of the original Penitent Magdalene painting? He may...
Poirot, good to see you.
The feeling is mutual, Monsieur Demire.
You and your formalities. Let's talk over here.
Is everything all right?
Miss Farquhar is interviewing Betty. I thought we should talk privately over here. I heard about Irene. Tragic news. And what's this I hear about poison?
Who told you that?
It doesn't take long for news like that to spread in this city.
I would appreciate some discretion between friends. But Mademoiselle was poisoned.
Anything I can help with? I won't take offense, as I know you're just doing your job. I attended the evening performance of Betty's show. Anastasia and I had a grand old time.
She accompanied you as your date?
She was at a loose end after the gala. Don't worry, I'm not here to tread on any toes. I mean, he can hold a conversation, of sorts.
You do not think particularly highly of him.
I've never had a problem with him before. Look, I ran into him last night in a bar after the show, and by the looks of him, it wasn't his first drink of the night. He was trying to sell me a lucrative business opportunity, a way we could both make some quick money.
Did you take him up on his offer?
God, no. When someone offers you something that sounds too good to be true, it usually is. That was some weekend. You should get him to tell you about it sometime.
Bragging is a sign of overconfidence and grandiose behavior.
You know, at first I found those kind of replies annoying. But now, charming almost.
I shall accept that as both a compliment and a sign of your maturity.
If it wasn't for the detective here, I would probably still be wallowing in my own anger and self-pity.
You have lived a life many of us have only heard about in stories. A life that we all hope no one will have to live again.
I second that.
Your family must be proud of the man you have become, as am I. I will not take up any more of your time.
Gentlemen, you're back.
Allow me to introduce myself properly. I am Detective Hercule Poirot of the Kingdom of Belgium's police force.
You should have led with that before. Nathaniel Dryden, editor of the London Illustrated News.
My apologies. I was not aware of your position on our initial meeting.
That's quite all right. You were still more polite than most of the people that come through my door. What can I do for you? I did, but that was supposed to be an exclusive. How did you know?
It is a detective's job to know such things.
Doesn't really explain how, but okay. He said he had something to tell me that was going to blow me away. I couldn't say no. Indeed, she was. Although she was working on her own story, so I left her to it.
At no point did she leave the office?
She's a very hard worker and won't leave until the story is just how she wants it. Needless to say, she outstayed me. She had photographs to develop too, so was in the dark room for some time. I'm sorry, gentlemen, but I have another appointment, if you don't mind. This place is usually full of all sorts that think they have a story for us, or want to know more about something we've published. I was meaning to mention that to Florence, actually.
Mention what, monsieur?
A young foreign girl came in asking about a piece that was on show at the museum. Originated in Eastern Europe somewhere, and Florence had written an article on it.
Did she say why she was so interested?
She said she was researching its journey from its first home with an affluent family. I forget the name. I couldn't tell her much more, besides that it was going to be moved from the museum shortly. No doubt into another exhibition somewhere.
Could this inquisitive young woman have been Mademoiselle Babagna? But why so curious about that particular piece of jewelry?
Merci. You have been most accommodating.
Oh. Huh. Oh. Huh.
Sacre. What is the meaning of this? It is the missing painting, and this photograph is identical to one that had been burnt in the fire.
Mademoiselle Farquhar, could I speak with you for a moment?
I'm in the middle of an interview.
I really must insist.
That was incredibly unprofessional, Detective.
If we are to discuss professionalism, perhaps we should talk about your work with Mademoiselle Court-Smythe.
I think you've got me confused with...
Enough, mademoiselle. It is time for the truth.
You don't think I was involved?
Please do not feign ignorance, mademoiselle. Where did mademoiselle receive her inspiration to make her forgeries? I remind you that I stand before you as a detective. It would be wise not to continue this charade any longer.
Poirot, maybe we should...
Monsieur Hastings, if Mademoiselle Farquhar requires someone to speak in her defense, she can contact a lawyer.
That won't be necessary. She asked me to photograph certain pieces of art, that's all. I didn't know what she was doing with them. I swear. I have no idea. I thought she was just trying to help my career, and I needed it.
Your career does not appear to need the help of a criminal.
She had such confidence. She knew all the right things to say.
And she got exactly what she wanted from you.
I was financially dependent on her. She paid for the lifestyle that I had found myself in.
Couldn't you have just said no to her?
And risk her exposing me for what I had done? She was the one holding all the cards. I had no way of proving it was all her plan. I had no other choice but to do what she said.
Merci, mademoiselle. That is all for now. I am sorry to have interrupted your interview earlier.
By the looks of it, what you were saying was much more exciting. Care to spill?
Perhaps we should stick to my questions to you. You have been most helpful.
If it is, it's been written by someone that hasn't quite grasped the English language yet. Fire to Irene.
It seems too obvious, but that does not mean it is wrong.
Oh.
Bonjour, mademoiselle. Is everything all right? Do not worry. It will not be long before the murderer is brought to justice.
It's not that. I just cannot understand how such historically relevant pieces like this remain in British hands. It doesn't belong here.
I'm sorry, mademoiselle. I do not have the answer. I'm sure they are well maintained, if that is any consolation.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sure this is the last thing you wish to be talking about. Well, after it was all cut short rather abruptly, we made our way to Mrs. Allen's play.
We, mademoiselle?
Mr. Demir and myself. We were all at a loose end, and He was kind enough to invite me. Oh, I wasn't aware Mr. Hastings was to be the focus of Florence's article.
On the contrary, it is only one of many she took at the gala. What interests me is the brooch.
Would you believe I found it? Amazing how careless some people can be.
And you were intending on returning it?
Of course. It just slipped my mind with all the commotion of the painting.
Mademoiselle Court-Smythe no longer requires it. I shall hold on to it for now.
Yes, and it was something that I wanted to speak with you about, actually. At the gala, I spoke with the bishop and he mentioned a painting he had seen last year. But it was one that I'd read had been stolen. He couldn't have seen it when he said, unless... Well, it didn't sit well with me. So when Evelyn escorted you both to the restoration room and he left, I followed him. I stayed well back, and the bishop is hardly the most threatening. I followed him into his church, but he was gone. I looked everywhere, but he was nowhere to be seen. It was like he just evaporated.
He is a man of God, not a magician.
I don't know what to say. He wasn't there. I decided to wait outside, but when he eventually left, he had a wrapped package under his arm.
You have been most helpful, mademoiselle. I shall not take up any more of your time.
Huh. Huh. Aha. Ah.
What do you need? The argument with Irene at the gala, and then with his wife after.
Madame Hélène had uncovered their relationship. But even with this revelation, what still remains a mystery is Monsieur Christiansen's involvement with the theft.
You're just full of questions, aren't you? Own? You don't just own an animal detective. He's part of our family.
Pardon. And his name?
Enoch. And I ask you the question, what's he got to do with anything? And how do you know about him?
Purely curiosity, madame. Enoch. A splendid name for a most handsome dog. And it was your husband that mentioned him at the gala.
It means faithful in Norwegian. It was Johann's idea.
You have been most helpful.
Huh. Ah. Oh. Aha.
The pigment of this paint is brighter than it should be.
Meaning?
We have found our second forgery.
Huh. Aha.
Poirot, the door. What are you doing in?
Monsieur Christiansen, welcome home.
This doesn't look good, does it?
We have much to discuss.
So Mr. Christiansen had an opportunity and a motive, but he continues to deny killing her.
And still 2 forgeries remain.
I knew it.
Pardon, monsieur?
I knew that's why she stayed so friendly with her. Irene always said she was besotted, that she could get her to do whatever she wanted.
Perhaps you should elaborate on the identity of her?
The curator. Evelyn, what's her name? She could spot a forgery at 20 yards. What better person to show you the ropes so you can make your own?
If the board of trustees at the museum got wind of this, Miss Warbeck's career would be finished.
And in her own words, if anyone was to jeopardize her career,
she wouldn't be held responsible for her actions.
It seems Monsieur Christiansen may not be the only person tied to Mademoiselle Court Smythe who has a secret to hide.